Welcome back to the Story of Liberty with Dr. Marshall Foster and Dan Williamson. We're going to just play a clip here from the upcoming film Monumental with Kirk Cameron.
A friend was telling me that in his hometown there are 3 high schools. 10 years later, 2 of them had been closed down because of lack of attendance, lack of enrollment. And the problem was, a decade earlier, the birth rate went down. People stopped having babies. Well, at that time, you had 3 high schools, didn't see any effect. But a decade later, the people aren't there. The consequence is delayed. And what's happening in our country is people are not teaching their children. They're not telling their children what it means to be an American, who we are, and what we believe. They're not teaching their children what it means to be a Christian. What's going to happen if we don't teach our children these things now?
We're already seeing it in England. You know, our society in places is just unravelling for this very reason. You know, the family doesn't matter anymore in England, and that is terrible. Now we see things changing for the worse, but when this generation that hasn't been taught these moral values have children on their own, what lies ahead for us then?
And we don't see it
No,
right now.
we don't see it
and
right
so
now.
we don't think there's a problem.
You
But
don't
just
see the
wait.
plant with the seed. You see the seed, maybe. You can't see how it's going to be when it's grown. You can't see this terrible situation unfolding until it's unfolded. How do you put an egg back into the shell once you cracked it open and it's out? You can't. This is what we're heading for. It's like a society meltdown. If there's no moral guidance coming through, it's going to be a free-for-all. Where are we then? It's frightening, Kirk.
So what do? We start planting seeds now, taking a lesson from history,
Yes.
and say, we plant seeds today as parents, as Americans, and we teach our children, and we tell the stories, and we remember our history. We can then trust God that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we will see the fruit of our labors. And even if we don't see it personally, our children will see it, our grandchildren will see it, and then there's hope that God will restore our country.
But it needs to be done now. We need to be doing it now, before it is too late. It's an investment into a pure, a proper society for the future instead of bedlam.
Well, do you see, for all these good reasons, marriage, the God-ordained family, is the basic building block of any stable society. You heard what's happening in Europe right now. And it's essential to the continuation of a healthy, stable America. Look, it's been proven over and over. When married couples stay together and raise children, the benefits are tremendous. Educational achievement, a better economic standard of life. They're much less likely to end up in poverty. Some child. It's proven there's better physical health, emotional health when a family stays together. Children that live with their 2 married parents are far less likely to commit crimes. And they're less likely to engage in school, in these schools where they have alcohol and substance abuse. And, of course, with the God-ordained family, there's a higher standard of integrity and moral principles. And it goes on and on. And probably the biggest thing to me and most important to me, and when I see my grandchildren, is I see that the next generation will pass this on. And I know, Dan, you feel the same way with your family.
Absolutely. You know, C.S. Lewis says we've created a generation of men without chests. And I think that is a fundamental change that has to occur. We need to create a generation of men with chess, men that will cultivate the land, subdue it, build the mechanical arts, build roads and bridges, and carry on commerce, deal with the fatigues of war, institute and administer government, shield women in times of danger, and perform that rough business of life. And we need women, once again, to have that incredible light and joy to their household, to nourish and train the immortal children and to mold that mind that it's in its plastic state. Fill the throne of the heart, to be the priestess of the sanctuary of the home, to be the comfort and support of a man during his seasons of sorrow and suffering, and to be the shine, the cheer, and to bless all the varied ministrations of sympathy and love from the cradle to the grave. These are the kind of things we need to embrace and once again move forward on. We need to teach the next generation. We have to create a generation of men and women that are really covenanted together as a family, barefoot out in the potato patch, digging and picking up those potatoes together and seeing the fruit of their labors.
Well,
and
that's
John,
true.
What Dan is saying is not just for Dan or for you or for me, it's for every American. And we can start where we are. And if we look down the road to the generations, just begin to live in covenant today. We've all made mistakes in the past. Let's start with today, that we're going to do it God's way. And as we start in the home, right there at the dinner table, that's where it all begins. Jonathan Edwards was the greatest evangelist and one of the greatest leaders in American history. He brought about the Great Awakening. He had 11 children. He was one of 11 children in his own family and was the only boy out of 11 children. He went on to have 11 children with his beloved wife. He died at the age of 54, giving himself smallpox when he was testing a vaccine when he became the president of Princeton University. And he died at 54. His kids were still young, many of them.
Well, that's great, Marshall.
What was the result of him living a godly life with his wife?
We all want to see
the study that was done in 1900, 140 years after they're married, and there were 14.
Okay, we're going to have to wind up here the story of liberty this evening with Dr. Marshall Foster of the World History Institute. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to being with you next week.